I just want to thank you all so much for being here. And we are going to take about 20-25 minutes to have a conversation with these incredible artists. And the dancers are going to come out, they're going to trickle out. I don't know how they're still standing. So they will come out when they can. But I have been admirers of these artists for a very long time, and so I'm so honored to get to facilitate this talk tonight. Well, thank you, and that is what I want to say first, is thank you for that incredibly powerful evening. So I thought we could do quick introductions, because I don't know if everybody here knows everybody, and then I'm just going to ask a couple of questions. And if the dancers are back, we would love to hear from them a little bit too, and then open it up to the audience. So I'll just quickly say, my name is Lisa Gonzales, and I am an associate professor here at the Dance Center.
And I'm Bebe Miller, I'm a choreographer.
Vershawn, Sanders-Ward, choreographer, director of Red Clay Dance Company.
So I wanted to start just by asking, it's such an exciting collaboration to have both your voices in the room and both your works on the stage. And I would just like to hear a little bit about how you came together in collaboration and what it has meant to you. What have you been working on together?
Well, it probably wasn't the first time I met you, but maybe it was. I don't know, but during the pandemic, can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. During the pandemic, my collaborators and I at the Bebe Miller Company, Angie Hauser and Daryl Jones, who both have a history here of teaching. We decided to kind of have a mentoring workshop that we called Solo Duo Dancing. Mainly because solo, we're always alone. Duo, we are always in a relationship. So we invited Vershawn and 4 or 5 other choreographers, Chicago, Northampton, Mass, and New York City, Columbus, Ohio. And just to come for a series of about 6 meetings, 3 hours on a Saturday every other week. It's a big commitment. And we sat around our screens and danced and danced in living rooms and talked a lot. And so that was our beginning of just not so much saying like, this is what our process is and you should do it, but more about what is yours, how do you do it, how do we do it, what are we trying to do? So just getting into more of the nitty gritty of what this field does and what we do as kind of artist citizens in it as well. So that's kind of how we got going.
Yes, and then I reached out to Daryl and I said, I think Bebe is transitioning from OSU. Would she come and work with the company a little bit?
Ohio State University.
Yes, sorry, the Ohio State University.
Yeah, I believe that.
And I ran it by Daryl, and he's like, just ask her. And so when we originally had a conversation, I really wanted the dancers to have an opportunity to be in the space with Bebe. Her process and what I was able to gather, really during the pandemic when I was looking for some creative, just something, rejuvenation, new ideas, a new way to think about how to approach work. I think deeply not only respected, but I found a new way of entering into a relation with artists in the space. And I wanted that opportunity for the company, but also to have work in our repertoire from you. So I reached out and we talked and we saw what happened tonight. So
that's
yes.
what we did. And I think that it was interesting that how you said how to, it's not so much share ideas, but just share, a process, a point of view, perspective, kind of a practice. And for me, really, the making of the piece was a way to share the practice, and not so much, and I'm glad we had one, had a piece out of that, but it was also just to come into a room with all these very particular dancers with very particular skills and coming together in an ensemble, and like, so what do we do together? And I had started, we started off with a little section of a previous work I'd done in 1995 called Field, and that's this part was beginning, but somehow by the time over time, not even a lot of time, but somehow, no, that's not the beginning. So Amaya coming out and for a long time and listening with this ominous music and it's like all of this other setup, I didn't know where the piece was gonna go. We didn't know where it was gonna go, but somehow also the context that our particular now that we all share just became more and more prevalent and more of a point of departure for me. So,
Well, that's beautiful. And yes, we got to talk a teeny bit yesterday. And one of the things that came up that you said you were talking about, and it's just a continuation of what you're talking about. You talked about this like sharing of information, like that's what you were doing together. And when I was watching information get communicated through the gorgeousness of the bodies dancing and listening, and could you talk a little bit about, I don't know, what is that information? It's so hard to talk about sometimes, I think, in dance, like what's being paid attention to,
do you want to talk about it in terms of your work? Or?
I think that was in relation to Bebe's work, but I think when I think about information or a process, this was also Written on the Flesh I made in 2016. So the first point of information for me was it was still very relevant, like 2016, 2025. A lot of the things and contextually I was thinking about, I'm still thinking about now. But I wanted to kind of pull back a little bit and look at understand the folks that were in the room with me now and what information are they bringing to this, what perspective, because that work was very much created with the artists that were in the room. And I make that way, so I was like, okay, rather than just restaging, but like these are some nuggets that are still resonating with me, and how do we explore that more and open it up more? What do you have to say about that particular thing? So the information for me was what was I seeing and allowing the work to go and follow that direction, than trying to keep it framed with what was before, right? Letting it be honest in the room now, and the information that's swirling all around us every day, every moment, allowing that to seep into the room and not block that. So how does that inform what you're seeing, what you're receiving today?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think for me, there's the little information of what is happening, but kind of the collective information in the body of dance artists. We have worked with so many partners in partnership, the laying on of hands, the feeling of pressure that you can read from there when I help her, and that we understand something about who we are together. So a touch is not the same as showing you that I'm touching. So just kind of refining on a kinetic level, what is it that we do in dance? What is it that we do when we can't quite see somebody that we're dancing with? So how do we know they're there? With what information are they carrying? What perspective and point of view? So I this is where I live now for a long time in my dance life, and it's information. And it's not gonna do me any good unless I give it out. You know what I mean? So whatever you might glean from our process is yours, and you all go in different directions with that, and it adds to whatever else you are holding in your own cauldron of work and process. So that feels at this stage in my dancing, that's a jewel. So.
Oh, thank you both so much. This is a bit of a continuation of what you're talking about, but both works tonight were so different and feel so necessary to right now and to for me at least, but for what we need. And I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about how this particular moment that was mentioned, that we're in, politically, societally, that we're reading every moment that's impacting us. How does that come into creative process? And how does creative process for you respond to that?
Well, I'll answer. For me, it is it's a way for me to release what I'm holding. I'm holding so much just in every moment. So it's a way for me to process through and get out whatever is coming up. So it's a release. And it's a way to question in collective, right? Not just kind of be in your own world. And you talk about aloneness, alone time, but like, how do I collectively question? How do I gather more information, more perspective, different perspective, to just continue to be and exist. And I think I think my work is, it holds a lot of tension, but it also holds a lot of history. It holds a specific lens. It's telling a specific story. And I'm hoping, my hope is that it's truth telling, that it's really telling the truth of the moment, and how, no matter how, painful or how difficult or how challenging, but is this an opportunity, right? For me, I think that's how I approach the reimagining, because the first iteration felt very finite and like, it's it. But for me, it's like, how do we move through and take this moment as an opportunity? What needs to go away? What needs to crumble? What needs to fail? And then where do we go from there? What is the new direction or new space that we can move into? So for me, it was an opportunity to work through and come to a different side of it. Yeah, because it was very, the original version, I think, was very like, and that's it, it's over. So if that is over, then what is coming out of it? What is the opportunity for something different? And that's what I wanted to think about in this moment.
Amazing.
I think I said this earlier, that I didn't know what direction the piece was going to go in when we started. And kind of day by day, and it's not only just reading the paper day by day, but also coming to Chicago. It's not my hometown, being here, spending time, meeting people, and slowly I think that it seemed like, wait a minute, it's not just you're here together and exploring something totally abstract. You're here together in a not necessarily direct way, but finding out, what does this togetherness do? What does it look like? How you guys found each other time and again, the nature of touch, and then like picking that apart and saying like, well, what if it's a little bit different? And so then the whole unfolding of your different, newer ways, not asset to approach your partner with a partner. I have to say that that last piece of music we heard together for the first time, like 2 days left, right? It was like kind of right at the end of the process, and I'd always played the middle of it the beginning of it, because I kind of like that kind of little creepy vibe it has. And then the words came, and I went, oh my gosh, this is where we're heading. So then even the other day in tech rehearsal, I said, now that we know where we are, where we're going to end up, let's go back to the beginning and just note that that is your passage. That is your journey through this piece to that ending. And that all came together really swiftly, I think, at the end. And by the way, that the text that's in the piece of music is Charlie Chaplin's City Lights, in 1938. He talks about good stepping, Jew, Gentile, black, white. Those were the only choices apparently back then. But just so like the relevance of where we are and how these things happen, and where we must go on from.
I need to breathe it out. Thank you so much for that. And now that the dancers are here, will you please introduce yourselves? And then I have a quick, maybe, do you think we have time to ask about the being together? We're gonna ask, okay, but first let's, I would love to hear your names and maybe just, oh! Just let us.
Hi, I'm Chantal Hill. I'm Kylia Canada. Hi, I'm Alex Kennard. Hello, I'm Janaya Pearson.
Hi, I'm Amaya Arroyo.
Hi, I'm Melina Bizanes.
Hi, I'm Celeste Brace.
Hi, my name is Zipporah Wilson.
Hey, I'm Chanel Turnbull.
Thank you. Oh, thank you all so much. I am wondering if a few of you, whoever feels comfortable and feels like they want to share, could maybe offer a little bit about what it was like to be to have these two works side by side and to create that journey from not only in each piece, but from the beginning of the evening to the end. Like, is there anything that you can pull, share about that? It was really, really incredible. So, I don't know. Is there? Okay, awesome.
So I would say at first they felt really different as we didn't know what the end of Bebe's work was going to be. So it felt like we were in two separate worlds. And me personally, one felt really like today, now, or like what's going on around me. And the other one felt like I could play. And I didn't feel like one kind of had a pressure of knowing what you're talking about and having to stand tall in that and knowing what that means to be able to stand strong in that and portray that and live in that, versus one just felt like playtime until we heard the last track and I was like, whoa, we are no longer in playtime. And they started to mesh and they started to have way more similarities than what it began, even though the movement vocabulary wasn't always similar. So we were on the same ride that they were. The first time we ran the show all the way through, we were like, it feels like one long dance instead of one piece intermission. It really felt like one long continuous journey that I'm sure all of us are blessed to have embarked on.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add? No pressure.
I think that
Vershawn's work does feel very bound, especially my character in the work. There's no tenderness to what I have to offer in that space. And then I think transitioning into BB's feels like a relief because it feels like we've done this fighting. We're traversing this like war zone truly in Vershawn's work and learning how to be communal. And once we get to BB's, it's almost like we're relearning what tenderness looks like in that space and what does it mean to fight for something and still be tender within community. And intentional with that, like Bebe was saying, like what does it mean to grab Zipporah like this or to like brush her? You know, like there's a difference in how we commune with each other in the same, when we're on the same plane versus in Vershawn's work when I think there's a clear caste system that we're trying to break down. So it really felt like, to me, transitioning into BB is I'm like, oh, there is tenderness allowed in this process. There is space to be soft with one another while fighting.
Hey, I agree. I agree with my other castmates about the works too, and like their differences also coming together to create one magical show. And I could just speak for the process of both too. I really enjoyed how we were all just able to collaborate and bring out our own self as well too. Like I even feel like even though like there are some parts that are bound, like hello leg, but yeah, like we were just still able to bring like our personalities and like our own individuality to throughout both processes, which was just really such a relief, and it was a joy to work with y'all and Vershawn and Bebe too. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, I would love to, I know that it's getting a little late, but if there are any burning questions, maybe we could take one or two. Is there anybody who, yay?
I did want to say that the Charlie Chaplin part, that really got me. I'm like, am I hearing this right? And I'm like, yeah, that's the Charlie Chaplin speech. I recognized it right away. That was a brilliant addition. It was brilliant. And you guys were amazing. It was conversation through movement. And that's what I really enjoyed. You're welcome.
So much. Awesome.
I too enjoyed both the pieces and the dances were amazing. I do have a question for Vershawn because my daughter had mentioned that there was an excerpt from the book Cast that you had taken from there. And ironically, I'm reading that book right now, right? I was like, Chanel, this book is amazing, right? So, and then you had mentioned the creative process, and you asked the ladies about the creative process. So my question maybe is, where in the book did you get some of your revelation? Like, is there any particular moment or point in the book where you're like, yes, this is what the dance is going to be about, or this is how I can kind of tie the dance together?
So the book, I think, opened up my mind to the different types of caste that exist across different societies. And I think originally when I made the work, it was very focused on what my experience has been in the US. Reading the book and understanding that there are different kinds of caste systems. Our caste system is a racialized caste system, but the book talks about other ways that folks are organized and kind of their hierarchy and what that means in terms of your opportunities in life. So I wanted to think about this kind of vying for positioning that was really about survival. And I don't think there was a particular moment in the book, but it made me think more about not just the relationship in terms of a black and a white, but really a caste and a hierarchy that we're in. How are you fighting to get out of that? And that we are all participating in a caste system, whether we acknowledge it or not, right? But to uphold a caste requires for everyone to participate. So I think the participation of it is what I was drawn to, and how are you leaning in or leaning out? How are you pushing against it? What is your rank or positioning? So the book really, it just brought it out. It expanded my understanding and the why behind it. And in order to see it, in order to address it, you have to see it. And here it's so elegantly interwoven into our day to day that sometimes we don't, but what can we put it under a magnifying glass and understand it to be able to address, you know.
And if you haven't read it, it's Cast by Isabel Wilkerson.
Isabel Wilkerson, who's from Chicago. Yes.
You gotta invite her.
I gotta invite her. I know. Somebody got a connection with me.
Oh, we should probably let these artists go to bed and rest. Oh, is there's another where? Oh, please, no. There is time. Yeah, there's time. You are allowed.
Well, thank you so much. Both pieces were incredibly impactful, so I'm really grateful to have seen them. And I noticed on the program that each of the pieces says that it was made in collaboration with the dancers, which I think is so wonderful to honor them for their contributions. And so my question for you as dance makers, as leaders of space, holders of space, how do you empower the dancers to make choices and to feel safe to share themselves with you? And then for the dancers as well, like what about the space empowers you to be able to support or perform so freely and with so much beauty? It's a big question.
I just have a short answer. I think going back to the original question, I would peek in every once in a while in the BB's process, because I don't like to be like, what's happening in there? But I would hear questions. What if this? What if that? What if, well, how about, well, do you want that? Well, I don't know. So sometimes just the questioning allows for voice to evolve and come up naturally. So I think I'm borrowing some of that as I go into future processes, but the questioning, it's, oh, you want to know what I think about? Like, oh, I'm thinking, so I have a perspective. So just asking those questions and sometimes not answering, so that there is something that I notice something that starts to happen within the group. Like, what do you think? What are you seeing? And that to me is, it's just all an opportunity for something else to evolve that I didn't perceive could happen or be possible. Yeah.
I was just thinking of a project I did a little while ago with another choreographer. We were working over the course of a year, not in the same, not related pieces, but just like, what would you make in a year? What would you make in a year? And we would get together on occasion. And I realized that often I'm watching the space, or I'm with the dancers and they're in the middle of something, and I'd say like, what is that? And my friend said, I never say that. I say, it's that. And I went like, oh my God, I'm asking questions. So it just makes total sense of like, well, why does that space between those two people vibrate in a different way than that single person over there? And so that kind of opening up also allows for a bit of real-time decision-making improvisationally. So tonight, thank you all, an unknown person, because everybody has like a little soul moment, and they're all improvised. Kind of around an idea. We gotta get over to that part, but they're making a decision based on what has happened, not only in their lives up to that moment, but like that really seems. I think I'm gonna leave it here for a while, and then okay, now we can go down. So, and I love that. It's not gonna be even with set material. it's never the same piece. So I really enjoy bringing that into the room, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I think from a dancer's perspective, both pieces are just so human and allowed us to be ourselves in the piece. And we were asked questions and we were given the opportunity to answer. So not just like a rhetorical question or like go home and think about this, but we had conversations, we were given prompts, we were journaling, we were able to share our own stories with each other. And it was also really out of necessity. Like these pieces are both so physical and so there's a lot of stuff happening at a lot of different times with a lot of different people. So like I need to also trust the other people that are on stage with me. And I think that is out of necessity, but that's also just like this group of dancers is incredible. Like we built a community and these dances were dances that existed in a sense before, but were set and made for us. And we were given the agency to then create it within us, find ourselves as individuals in the space and how we relate to each other, how we related to you all. And you also just gave us so much agency to say what feels right to you or what feels good to you here. How do you figure this out with each other? So it really was a process that we had to trust each other out of necessity. We built that community and we were really invited to be human because these pieces are just so human and real and authentic as individuals and as a community.
Yeah, really fast. Vershawn had mentioned a bunch of times that there's a tethering. And I've felt that. I feel like I'm bonded to these people for life, honestly, at this point. But I know like in the second piece, Bebe's, throughout the piece, like I kind of had to come to terms with, you know, as dancers, like we always perform, we want to make our mark, do the movement. But in Bebe's piece, like I had to remind myself, it's not always about you. You know, it's like if I was a count ahead of someone else, the whole piece is probably screwed. I think one point me and Amaya had a moment and I think we had to get on time for something. And I pulled her to the side and I go, I consider you in everything that I do. And she goes, really? And I'm like, yeah, I consider you. And I consider everyone that I'm dancing with because it's not about me. It's about us as a collective, as a community. It's the tethering. And without that tethering and the togetherness, this wouldn't be possible. So.
Oh, thank you so much. I think we need to say goodnight now. And again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your incredible performances and for your incredible work.
Thank you, Bebe.